what you had achieved. There's a big section on that, I read it. But I just want our students to know what you did.
Thank you, Professor Srinivasan. First of all, let me thank all of you for coming to this meeting. It gives me great pleasure to meet all the brilliant young minds assembled here, and I wish you all the best in your future careers. Now it's a pleasure to converse with Professor Srinivasan. I've known her sharp intellect over the years, and one can feel a little nervous about being interviewed by Professor Srinivasan. But I think she's mellowed over the years and she's been kind to me in framing some of these questions. You know the other part of Professor Srinivasan, she is very polite to me, maybe with you also, I don't know. Now, how I came to Sebi is really a matter of luck. A series of incidents took place which finally led me to Sebi. It starts a long time back. I can't take too much time in dwelling at my own official personal fortunes, but I'll tell you. I retired in 1988 and I was prepared to settle down quietly in a house in my Bangalore or Madras. I get a call from Dr. P.C. Alexander, who was then appointed as Governor of Tamil Nadu under the President's rule. The elected government was dismissed, President rule was imposed here, the entire administration of the state was left to the Governor of the state. And he wanted some assistance to run this entire state administration. He rang me up at about 10 o'clock one night when I was in Hyderabad, and he said, "Would you like to work for me?" I had known him earlier in various capacities, but I was surprised to get his call, and he said, "Would you like to work for me?" I said, "Yes, I'm retiring in 2 or 3 months, but I'd like to work for you." He said, "Sure, then leave it to me." Then he went to Rajiv Gandhi, the Prime Minister, and said, "I want you to give him P.V. Ramakrishna as my advisor in Tamil Nadu." And then it went over a long distance, and then it came back, and finally they appointed me here. At that time, this state was in a total paralysis. There was a complete strike of all teachers, all government servants, whole office was closed. Nobody in office. So when I walked in here, he had one other advisor, and I went to the governor and said, "Here I am." Then he said, "You take charge of 12 departments, and you run the 12 departments, and come to me whenever you want advice." So that's how I joined here and started to work in Madras. At the end of the Madras session, he was very pleased with what I had done here. I resolved the strike, settled it without too much cost to the government, and then it went on. And then he said, "What would you like to do now that you're finished with me?" I had no particular plans. He said, "There's a vacancy coming up in Brussels as ambassador to the European Union. Why don't you go there?" Then he spoke to Rajiv Gandhi, and then I was appointed there. I went there. When I went there, it was 98 end or 89 end. Then elections came. Rajiv Gandhi lost the election. VP Singh was made the Prime Minister. So he said, "It's a new government. All retired people who are appointed as ambassadors should resign." So I get a message from Foreign Secretary, "Can I have your resignation?" I said, "Sure." I sent it to him the same day. There were 2 others in similar positions. One was Foreign Secretary Raskotra, who was in London. The other was Dr. Karan Singh, who was in Washington. 3 of us are retired people who were doing this extra jobs. So I sent the resignation first. Then Foreign Secretary said, "What's the hurry?" I said, "You want it, you take it. Then let me go." Then flashback again to what I did before I came to Madras was to pilot a very major project called HPJ pipeline, gas pipeline. It was being implemented by Gas Authority of India, and I was the secretary in charge. And there was strong competition between an Italian company, a French-Japanese consortium, and a Canadian company. And there's technical qualifications, comparative bids were there, and the team went and analyzed the bids and said, "It does not go to the Italian, it goes to the French-Japanese combined." So if they win the bid, they will get the bid. So I had to resist a lot of pressure from the government and elsewhere that I should give it somehow by manipulating the bid to the Italians. I said, "I can't do that." And then they said, my minister lost his job, unfortunately. He said, you can't persuade your secretary to accept, then you go. He came and said, I'm going today, I don't know how long you will stay here. I said, I'll go with you if you want today. And then he went. And then another minister came. He was there for a short while and he tried his best to persuade me why don't you agree to Italian. I said, I can't, because the difference is not half a crore or 1 crore, it is 100 crores, and I can't agree to that. You know what happened to the predecessor minister? He said, yes, your minister, predecessors are gone. So I'm sorry if you have to go, I can't help it, but you better stay with me and hope for the best. Then it went on like that, and finally the order was given to the French-Italian combined. It was signed by the finance minister at that time, BPC. Later when he became Prime Minister, they wanted the resignation of all these people, and I came. Somebody went and told him, he is the chap who you supported when you were Finance Minister, and he withstood all the pressures and gave the contract to the lowest bidder and saved the country 100 crores. So he said, then why is he going home? They said, you passed the order to call him back. So they asked him, I gave him some other job. Then they looked at it, and the finance secretary rang me up, an old friend of mine, and he said, now I say, I'm under orders to give you some job, where would you like to go? I said, I have no idea. What would you like me to do? So he said, you go to Bombay, in a company called Securities Exchange Board of India. I said, I'll have a crack at it, but I don't know much about securities. I don't know anything either. And nobody knows much about securities market regulation in India. So you'll be treading on new ground if you take up this job and try to do what you can. I said, I'll do that. Then he issued the orders. Then he said, you don't bother me and I won't bother you. Do what you like. You don't take charge, we'll give you a flat and a car in Bombay, you manage. I said, all right, I tried. So that's how I went to Sebi. When I first went to Sebi, I had a meeting, the people in Bombay, the financial circles were wondering, who is this strange creature coming into a closed financial world? What does he know about financial world? What does he know about stock markets? And what is he going to do? Let us test him out. I said, it went on like that. Then I went and joined there and addressed the meeting with the financial people, and I described all that in the book. Now, at that stage, how I got Sebi is sheer destiny, if I may say so, or the circumstances are such that step by step I was pushed into Sebi. And at that time I found that things are quite chaotic in the capital market. There was no regulation, no enforcement, nothing. And the brokers and the people there in the financial circles were looking at me strangely, who is this new personality who was coming to our closed area in Bombay. I was not known in Bombay, I didn't serve there anyway, I served in Delhi. So they were out to test me out, and the press was trying to ask me all kinds of questions. So the press meeting I had after 15 days or a month, they said, have you dealt in shares and stocks? Are you competent to regulate the stock market? I said, that's a funny question you're asking me. If you have a heart problem and you go to a doctor, you ask him, have you had a bypass surgery? So they said, all right, you know how to answer us, you carry on. And then I settled down there. And then they said, have you bought any shares? After some time around those interviews. I said, never bought or sold a single share in my life. Then if you've not bought a single share in your life, how will you manage this affair? I said, I don't have to buy shares. I know how shares are bought by others and how sold by others. I don't have to do it myself. And then they said, I said, I did not know enough to deal in shares. Now, after 6 months, you're asking this question. I said, I know enough not to buy shares. So they understood the difference and they said, keep quiet, leave it like that. So that's how I got into Sebi. But when I first got into Sebi, it was a chaotic arrangement in Bombay. The Bombay Stock Exchange is one of the oldest stock exchanges in the world, at least in Asia. 1875 it started, it was carried on by a few people under a banyan tree, and trading started in small shares. There are not many shares, not many companies. So stock trading was quite new to a lot of people. A lot of people are willing to gamble and take a chance in the market to make money. So that is to answer the question, how I came to the center stage of Sebi. Was a presence was there? I told you my presence was not there. I didn't know what was being offered. And I asked them, they said, take it and do it. I said, I'll try my best. When we left Sebi, we were content. No, for 1.5 years, I was not given any statutory powers to enforce the regulation. So most people used to write caricatures. They used to call me the toothless tiger in Sebi. You had no powers, no law, nothing. You were carrying on with improvisation, using so-called unconstitutional powers, etc. But I had to use those things to bend arms to do things the right way. One of the things was the merchant bankers. There was an old order of the government of India which said merchant bankers who are in charge of new issues should be registered with government, should be approved by government. So I wrote to the government, transfer the power to me, and I let me handle it till you give me a new act. You are not giving me a new act. This is all that you take about the powers. But give me the first handle on the capital market. And I said, merchant bankers are coming to my door to say, I want to promote this issue for 100 crores, and you approve me. I will approve you provided you satisfy me that you are going to do something useful. Are you going to do due diligence? Are you going to bring out the real advantages of investing in this company? What are you going to do to deserve this position? Tell a merchant banker to the issue. They said, we are not used to doing all that. We just put our name and collect our commission. And we have connections in companies. They allow us to promote the issue and they give us a commission. I said, that won't do. You must do it. Then they said, all right, we will do what we can. I said, if you wish to continue in this business, you have to do this. This is the role of the merchant bankers. Then they said, if companies don't want to publish all the information, unless adequate information is given, you don't expect an investor to put his money in your company unless you tell him what your company is about, what your strong points are, how are you going to face the market situation, what are the systemic risks you are going to face, what are the market risks you are going to face. And we're putting out all that for the investor to see. Then they said, no, we are not doing all that. You have to do that now, I said. Then I said, you have to print all that in the prospectus application form. Then there's a meeting with Mr. Palkewala was there presiding. I said, I have tried to do this so far, and they're printing the prospectus and the application form in such small letters that I find the share companies of glass factories are going up. How do you say shares of glass companies are going up? I said, because everybody is buying magnifying glasses. So he laughed and said, then how are you going to deal with that? I said, I'm going to ask them to print it in bigger. If I put it in bigger print, there's no place in the sheet. I have to do it in 2 sheets. I said, use 3 sheets. What's the problem? So then it went on back and forth with the issuers and the merchant bankers and others. So that's how we started off with giving some investor protection. Later on until today, one of the main objectives of Sebi is investor protection. Protection against minimum information, protecting against wrong information. Once we got a new issue permission application, they said, I got 60 acres of land in Kerala, which grow beautiful trees, and I'll put your investor's name on each tree, so you can come and watch it every 15 days, and then know the tree belongs to you, and when you sell the wood in the tree, the money will go to you. So I said, you check with the state government whether the land really belongs to this man or not. They checked with him and the state government. This time the government land and this fellow is an encroacher, he is going to be thrown out and arrested next week. And he is going to the public to say, give me money to raise 100 crores or 50 crores to grow new trees. And you know how long it takes to grow trees. So all kinds of malpractices were there in the market, and one had to do it. That is one part of it. The other part I want to say was, yeah. You want the next question? Yeah, sure.
Because I think all of this is leading to Sebi's contact and when you left. And that we can come a little later, because many questions would come in between. I just want to ask you, in terms of your huge stake in the knowledge and experience of various places and the differences in policies, in governments, and different kinds of institutions. What is your take on the global financial crisis? Did everyone hear the question?
Yes. Okay. I think most people, by common consent, want to ask the question, so I deal with it. See, the crisis you saw recently, the 2008 crisis, I would recommend two books for you to read if you have the time, two voluminous books. One by one of the key actors at the stage, for TARP was developed, TARP, TARP was developed and rest of it was developed, was Hank Paulson. Hank Paulson's book is called On the Brink. It's a hour by hour, minute by minute account of what happened during those days before the administration and the TARP was introduced. TARP is for some other word, it's a plan for troubled asset relief plan, revival plan, not a troubled asset relief plan, TARP. He gives an account of how they dealt with the situation at the time. There's another book which gives you outside information. Hank Paulson gives the inside government role, how each role, government played its role, Federal Reserve and the Treasury Secretary and others. But the other book is equally interesting by Dorkin, Too Big to Fail. Very interesting book. I would recommend that also for you to read. Too Big to Fail by Dorkin. Sorkin, S-O-R-K-I-N. Now, in hindsight, what is now known to most people, although they gave a TARP and nearly $1 billion the government money was given, and a lot of other facilities have been given by FITC cover for a number of institutions. At that time, including Greenspan, world's Federal Reserve Chairman, they said these are exuberant animal spirits, people, investors, pushing up the market. Exuberant animal spirits, he called them. But because of the encouragement from government, there was a great movement towards increasing the house ownership, spreading it wide. Then the word went around to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac that you support all those institutions to give loans for people to buy houses on loans. Then the anxiety of banks to push the loans from undeserving people who had no way of repaying the loan, they encouraged the banks to lend and they gave them protection. And then it went on spreading to various institutions. Then they devised very cleverly not only the first sale mortgage deed, they sliced up the mortgage deed into different sections and sold them to different people at different rates so that people didn't know what they were buying and when they were going to get the money and what they are doing. They just became a gambling game. And third thing is, the people who worked in these institutions, the banks, were rewarded with the number of sales they made and the volume of business they got without realizing the quality of the business that they got. So, all this combined to create this mass hysteria to take loans, buy houses, default. And the biggest people who lost money are Freddie Mac and Freddie Mae and AIG, American Insurance Company. AIG is a bigger fall than Lehman Brothers. Lehman Brothers was the fourth largest investment bank in the world and it collapsed. And how Lehman Brothers collapsed is given in these two books. I said, our government saw it sink and eventually Barclays said, we can't support you. And then they dropped the whole thing and they said, we can't help it, we can't save Lehman, let it go for Chapter 11, filing. So this is how the global crisis developed at that time. And the government was about to get completely, totally disorganized, discredited. Then they got like Hank Paulson, who was earlier president of Goldman Sachs and chairman of Goldman Sachs, and then they brought him into government. Earlier in 2006 also he had worked for a short time in the White House with President Nixon. Then they brought him back under President Bush. Then they also will support this measure that they've taken, and then we will have to spend $1 billion plus all the other FIDC benefit to all institutions to continue the lending and save or whatever we can of the bad loans. So people owe billions of dollars. But one thing you must remember as the corporate governance people, what happened even at that time, people were proposing millions of dollars of bonuses for failed companies. If you run a company and run it to the ground and fail, you are asked to take a bonus of 5 billion, 2 billion, 3 billion. In fact, the chairman of Merrill Lynch asked for 10 million bonus. They all hit the roof and said, "What is, Merrill Lynch is up for sale. It will be eventually going to be bought by Bank of America, which is now bought by Bank of America." So you have failed the company, you're asking for $10 million bonus. Then it's all right, settled down to $3 million. So again, $3 million of bonus.
Do you agree that the regulators have been asleep across the globe?
Very much so. Not only asleep, they were encouraging. The Federal Reserve chairman was not a player, he was part of the regulator. He was the top man, was in charge of all these things. And during the discussions, Cox was chairman of SEC at the time, was also there. But one trouble with regulation in America, unlike other places, is SEC was set up in 1934. And the structure of SEC was, it had 5 members. The majority members would be of the ruling party, politically oriented SEC. 3 members from Republicans, 2 members from the Democrats. Later, when the Democrats came, 3 from Democrats, 2 from Republicans. Out of the 5-member SEC, this was all the composition was done by understanding from the beginning. Joe Kennedy was the person, then you had 2 justices of the Supreme Court were members, but they were all nominated by different political parties. So they did not think that they could not have a completely independent regulatory body in SEC because of its very composition. And if the Republicans came, there was more business, more enterprise, more this thing, and therefore SEC was asked to take it easy. Don't work, overtime, don't chase people overtime, take it easy. When the Democrats came, they will chase them. But you can't let loose people and then chase them as will, depending on the election, the best to be every 4 or 5 years. So that is how the SEC, I may say, is in a way hamstrung in applying uniform rules impartially to all people in the market they're supposed to regulate. And that is one of the reasons why, when all this happened under Bush 1 and Bush 2, and earlier in Nixon's time, people were just quite happy to let things float along, and that's business, and you win or lose. And the result was, a lot of companies like Lehman Brothers went underground. They were sold as that, bankrupt companies.
How about compliance? Compliance officers have all been the CEO's pay and general counsel's pay and CFO's pay.
Yeah.
They're all tied to earnings.
Yeah.
And is that the kind of incentive to rob the bank?
The compliance officers.
Also, I have a corollary question to that. And you might have seen a recent article on whether business schools are incubating criminals. And how do you train all of these very important people who are going to be even more important to comply with everything, at the same time make the kind of profit they deserve to make in the interest of community, country, whatever their firm is about? I am told exactly at, no, it's not at 6, is it?
Or will go down?
5, at 6 o'clock. Kalapakam will switch. That's what I was told.
Kalpakam? Doesn't matter. We're getting power now, so we'll carry on.
Yeah.
No, we were on compliance officers. And what is the other point you mentioned?
The compliance.
And why young people do this?
Right. Earnings connected to.
You see, it's like a father telling the son, I give you a lot of money in your pocket, go and bet in the races. And it's good luck if you make more money. If you don't make more money and lose the money, come back to me and give you more money for betting. The young professionals are being told, more you bet with investors' money, more money you make, they'll reward you with more bonuses. So there's a direct incentive for risk taking. Not avoidance of risk, but increasing